Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping in. My name is Jessica, and in today's video, I am sharing 4 meals that only use one skillet. I love that because it makes cleanup super quick and easy, and who doesn't love that part, right? So let's go ahead and get to the kitchen and get cooking.
I'm gonna start off with this delicious and beautiful skillet enchilada. It has very minimal prep, so we're gonna go ahead and start by preparing and dicing a half of a yellow onion. Moving over to the stove, I'm gonna go ahead and add in a little olive oil to my skillet and throw in my diced yellow onion and let it saute for about 5 or 6 minutes. Now that this has been cooking, I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to go ahead and mix that in. Once my onions are cooked up, I'm adding in 1 pound of ground beef. I'm mashing it up really well and browning it. Once it's done cooking, I'm going to drain off any extra grease. Now I'm adding in a 19-ounce can of red enchilada sauce, 2 cups of rotini noodles, and 2 cups of water. To season, I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes and 1 teaspoon of taco seasoning. I'm giving this a little stir, and then I'm going to put the lid on and let it cook for about 10 minutes or just until the pasta is ready. Once my pasta noodles are cooked well, I'm going to go ahead and remove my lid and turn the heat down to low. Give it a little stir. I'm adding in 4 ounces of cream cheese to give it that creamy texture, and I'm topping with a cup of Colby Jack cheese. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on for just a bit and let it get nice and melty. I'm topping mine with a little green onion and some olives. This skillet enchilada really is a beautiful dish, and I love how easy it comes together with such minimal prep. This thing was bursting with flavor. We topped ours with a little sour cream. Now we're going to be making up one of my favorites, a skillet stew. To prepare, we're going to dice up a half a bell pepper, half a yellow onion, and 3 russet potatoes. I'm also going to be using this small can of carrots. Over at my skillet, I'm adding in a little olive oil along with my bell pepper and onion. I'm going to go ahead and give that a little stir. Next, I'm adding in 1 pound of ground beef and going to brown that and mash it really well. Next, I'm adding in some seasonings. I'm adding in a tablespoon of garlic and about a teaspoon of salt and pepper. Once my meat is browned, I'm going to make sure to drain off any extra grease before adding in my potatoes. Now, what we want to make sure we do here is move those potatoes around and try to get them kind of to the bottom of the pan before putting in our broth. Once I have that ready, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 cups of beef broth and 1 cup of water. Now I'm throwing on my 8 ounces of carrots, and I'm using my spatula to really mash down my potatoes so that I know that they're covered with the broth. I want to be sure that my potatoes are fork tender. Now I'm adding in the creamy goodness, 4 ounces of cream cheese and about a cup of my shredded cheddar cheese. I'm going to mix this in just to give it that nice creaminess. To top it off, I'm going to add in the rest of my shredded cheddar cheese. I'm going to put the lid on for just a bit and let the cheese get nice and melty. I had some green onions on hand, so I went ahead and topped our skillet with those green onions. And here it is, the finished product. It's not the most beautiful thing, but let me tell you, this dish is super hearty and very delicious. And the best of all, it really took no time at all to cook this. I highly recommend you give this one a try. This stuffed bell pepper skillet is one of my husband's favorite dishes. To prepare, I'm dicing up a half of an orange and green bell pepper and a half of a yellow onion. Over at my stove, I'm heating up a little olive oil and going to add in my diced up onions. Once those onions are nice and cooked, I'm adding in my 1 pound of ground beef. I'm going to go ahead and mash this up really well and get it browned. Finally, I'm going to be adding in some seasonings. I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of garlic and 1 can of diced tomatoes. Now this is the big can, you only need the little can. So I'm going to save half of this for a recipe for later. And now I can add in my bell peppers that we prepared earlier and 2 cups of beef broth. For some additional seasoning, I'm adding in a teaspoon of Italian seasoning and a teaspoon of salt and pepper. Next, I'm squeezing in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and adding in 3/4 cup of white jasmine rice. I'm going to give it a little stir and bring it up to a boil. Once it's boiling, I'm going to go ahead and reduce my heat to low medium, put the lid on and let it cook for about 18 to 20 minutes. After it's done cooking, I'm going to use my spatula to fluff the rice. I'm throwing on about 1.5 cups of shredded cheddar cheese and some green onions to top it off. I'm adding my lid back on for just a little bit to let the cheese melt. I was always so intimidated to make a regular stuffed bell pepper, but this skillet does make it super easy. It comes together so quickly and it's bursting with tons of great flavors. To finish off, we're making this delicious kielbasa pasta skillet. To prepare, I'm dicing up a half of a yellow onion, and I'm going to be using this beef smoked kielbasa sausage and dicing it up in about 1/4 inch pieces. Over at my stove, I'm going to heat up a little cooking oil and add in my diced onions. After about 5 minutes of cooking the onions, I'm adding in the diced kielbasa sausage. Now I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to let that cook for about 5 more minutes. To my skillet, I'm adding in 1 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I had these diced tomatoes on hand from a previous recipe, so I just went ahead and used those. I'm also adding in 2 cups of chicken broth, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and 8 ounces of bow tie pasta noodles. Now, at this point, I'm just making sure to stir in those pasta noodles and cover them with the sauce the best that I can. Bringing it to a boil, I'm going to let it boil for about 10 minutes or until the noodles become tender. Once they become softened, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese and mix that in really well. Now I'm adding in an additional 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese, but I'm just going to let it sit on the top, cover it with a lid, and let it melt the cheese. I topped ours with green onions and crushed red pepper flakes. It would go nicely with some diced cherry tomatoes on top too. I love this dish because it's such low prep and very easy to make. It's one the whole family loves.
up this video. I hope that you enjoyed and found some inspiration for keeping it simple in your kitchen. And as usual, if you're interested in trying some of these meals, I will leave all of the ingredients down in the description box below, so feel free to check out those details there. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.